Now can you hear me? Okay. Good. Hi, welcome. I am going to walk you through a case study today. I'll be explaining how our company, our group, help teams with their Agile journey, help foster collaboration and self-organization. So this is our approach on helping teams. So a little bit about myself. I have been with SAP Concur for almost 3 years now. I heard of Agile, I drank the Kool-Aid and I was sold. And so I'm a Scrum Master, but I also manage Scrum Masters globally as well. So how did we get to forming Agile Operations? So our R&D group a few years ago decided we're going to go Agile. So as most companies do, they go out and they bring in trainers, they train people, and then what do? Go forth and do Agile. We want you to be Agile. Right? So we know how that goes. So fortunately, a few years ago, our leadership realized, it's not quite going the way we hoped it would go. So they fortunately decided to invest in bringing in dedicated Scrum Masters. And so this is how our Agile Operations was created. What we do primarily now, or for the last few years, is we help R&D teams. There is about 160 Agile teams, and there's about 18 of us now throughout the United States and throughout Europe as well. So we touch about 40 teams, which is only 25%. Right? So there's still a lot of teams that we don't really touch as dedicated Scrum Masters. And we do have Agile coaches, and I'll talk through that as well. So we provide dedicated Scrum Masters. We provide best practices, principles. We have Agile guardrails, in which we have kind of some guidelines so we can help create some consistencies throughout the team. We offer education classes as well. So our Scrum Masters, not only are they dedicated Scrum Masters, but they help in different various pillars, one of which is education. So we have built our own decks, we build our own training, we provide classes in Agile basics, user stories, estimation, roles and responsibilities. About a year and a half ago, we started moving some folks to the Agile coaching role. So our coaches go out and they help, especially teams that don't have the dedicated Scrum Masters. Our Scrum Masters as well, also in the various locations, will help coach teams as well. Product owners who even working with management as well. But what our coaches do is they'll go out and they can do an assessment on a team based on our guardrails. So how do they feel the teams are working through against our guardrails? User mapping is another exercise in which our coaches help teams with. It's really good when they've got these large epics or they've got the features, and it really gets the teams involved, helps create that collaboration between the product owner and the team as well. What the coaches also do is they use our Agile maturity model. So this is our version of the Agile maturity model. And hopefully most of you, or a lot of you, have heard of Tuckman's model: forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. So we came up with our own model. You notice there's just 4 stages. And then along the vertical, we have story progression, vision, product owner, team. UX is something we added. So in our organization, UX is separate from the team. So most other organizations, UX is part of the team. In our organization, UX is a separate entity. So, to quickly walk through the forming and norming stages, right? So, that's where the team is just starting to get to know each other. They're figuring out how to work as a team. They have a vision, they have a backlog, they high-level user stories. They're doing estimation using planning poker, they have a definition of that. So they have the basics, right? The basics understanding of Scrum. We say bottom up because they really don't have a whole lot of interactions with stakeholders yet. The senior leadership isn't quite engaged yet. So they're really more task-oriented, right? So we know we need to do these are the tasks, and these are the things we're going to do. As they move through the model and into the performing and high-performing, typically a team's been working together for a while, right? They are collaborating, they are self-organizing, the dynamics are there, they have moved to being cross-functional, cross-pollinating, they understand what the vision is, they understand what needs to get done, and how to they understand what the customer is looking for, and they work with stakeholders, which is why we have top-down, right? In this performing, high-performing, there is a lot more interaction with senior leadership, right? The stories are created based on the value and what the customer is looking for. And they start laying out the user stories to meet MVP. So this wouldn't be a case study unless I told you about a couple of teams and how we moved them through this model. So the first team I'm just going to call Team A. This is one of our coaches worked with this team. So when we first work with the teams, we're looking at the model and we ask the teams, what are some of the areas that you feel we could use some improvement in? So Team A said, can you help us with our team charter, our team agreement? We don't seem to really know what our charter is, what our agreement is. And, our definition of ready, definition of done, we don't have agreement on that. Could you help us figure that out? They also wanted they're like, our epics, they're just so large. Can you help us break those down? So as you can see, some of the items that fall in some of these, where they're informing and norming. So how do we help them improve? How do we help them move through the model into the performing? So we sat down and we helped them with a team charter. Once they had that in place, then they could together figure out, well, what is our definition of ready? What is our definition of done? The coach also helped facilitated some user mapping user story mapping sessions. This was a way that the product owner could get input from the team, right? And this can help the product owner see the value in doing user story mapping as well as the team. Another thing that the coach helped the team was to see that they still had specialists in the team. So they still had a few people who were kind of the ones that knew everything and was always picking certain things. And so the coach helped the team understand the value of cross-pollinating, the cross-functional, becoming cross-functional. And by doing that, it creates more collaboration. The team understands how they can work together to meet the sprint goal. The coach also spent a lot of time with the product owner one-on-one, coaching the product owner as well, in understanding and figuring out their vision, creating a roadmap, working with the team to understand what the vision is, working with the customers, really understanding that they own. Product owners should own the strategy and the vision. So what worked? What helped this team become performing? The team wanted to improve. The team embraced it, right? And so they wanted help in getting them to improve. They knew they were not quite there, but they didn't quite know how to get there. They wanted to move through the model quicker. They wanted to, understand better what the customer wanted. So what didn't work? So while this team, for the most part, is in the performing, from the product owner's standpoint, we still feel that they're in the norming part. The product owner still doesn't quite understand why they should own the roadmap, why they should be making a decision at the product level, working with the stakeholders and customers to understand what value are they really going to bring. And our coach is still helping them on that. The second team that I'm going to talk about, Team B, this is one of our Scrum Masters helped the team through this model. They're also at a performing state at this point, but the areas in which they identified that they needed improvement are a little different. And so you'll notice as you work with teams, each team, depending on where they are at different, there's different areas in which they can use improvement, different areas in which it's working. And so there's not one team that has the same difficulties or improvements that they can make. And that's what we're finding as we're working with teams is what worked with one team may not work with another team. What one team may be having a little trouble with, the other teams can't. So while this is a model, right, we don't have this is how you do it, and this is how you move them through the model. So Team B. So what areas do they feel they need improvement? Refinement of their backlog estimation, right? So they were refining their backlog, but they weren't all in agreement or all on the same page on estimating what kind of information they needed. The quality of the user stories were not clear. The strategy was unclear to them. This particular team works on a product where other teams, they depend on other teams. So they didn't quite understand who owned the code. Right? So we're working here, but there's another service that may affect us, but we don't quite understand where the line of ownership is. So how do we help the team move through the maturity model? So we help them focus. When we're in refinement, let's focus. What is it that we're really trying to do here? What is the user story asking for? Helping the team understand, let's ask questions. The product owner may not have all the answers, but let's work together with the product owner. Help them stay focused and help them understand that quality stories will help them in the long run, and will help them build quality software. The team, as mentioned before, had a lot of dependencies. So they depend on other teams. So helping to bridge the teams so that they can start collaborating and coordinating with other teams and understanding, okay, if there is a dependency, let's go out and figure out what those dependencies are. All right, so what worked? So the same as the first example, helping the team understand, let's break those specializations. Let's become cross-functional, let's cross-pollinate, let's collaborate. We're all working together to build something that the customers want. So let's work together during our sprints, and let's work to get something done together. What worked was they were open to being coached to fully understand that they do have control of their code. Right? We're moving into DevOps. A lot of companies are moving to DevOps. So helping the team understand, you own this code, you're responsible for it. Let's figure out how we can have ownership. And by understanding you have ownership creates pride. They want to create better product. Also, what also worked was exposing the team to best practices and initiatives going on. They were siloed. They didn't understand what else was going on around them. They didn't understand what the other teams were doing around them. Right? So we helped them understand what are the different initiatives and how is what you're doing important to these various initiatives. And here are some of the best practices to help you as well. So what didn't work? We tried to change too many things all at once, right? Sort of what we heard earlier this morning. So lesson learned is let's not try and change too many things all at once. Let's just take a little bit at a time. So where do we go from here? How do we continue to help our teams? So we're to the point where a lot of the teams, they understand the basics, right? They understand this is what you do, this is Scrum, this is Kanban. So we spent a lot of time, and we will continue to spend time working with teams, but we're going to expand our agility outside of teams. So what that means is, we're going to look at processes that may affect the teams, help improve those. Checking in with leadership, coaching the leaderships and the stakeholders, helping to create that top-down movement in the model. We've already started expanding our outreach outside of R&D. So we have teams in our cloud services, teams in marketing, teams in implementation, looking to move to Agile. So we're starting to work with them as well, educating them and providing coaching. We're going to evolve our metrics, right? So we've been focused on what gets rewarded is what gets done, right? So we've been looking at metrics. So, okay, what's your velocity? How did you do? And we're going to move more towards how did you get this done? What value have you added to the product? So what you've been doing in these sprints, what's the value? Are we actually adding value? Are we doing things that the customer really wants? Self-direction, we're going to continue to help teams become self-organized, helping them see that big picture, helping them understand these are initiatives. Why are you doing what you're doing? And then helping them understand you're lockstep with your stakeholders, you'll be a lot more successful. You'll understand, and then you'll start taking things into your own hands. And then we're going to continue to achieve consistency across the board. Our guardrails, we continue to evolve those. And as we see teams where they need improvement, we're going to continue to improve our guardrails to include not only Scrum, but Kanban values as well. And that's about it.